Hello guys! Now in this video we are going to be looking at common lenses and how to use them and what the benefits are and what the downsides are. So when we look at lenses we're going to be looking at a standard long lens and a wide angle. And basically a standard lens is shooting around 50 to 55 millimeters, and this is basically what your eyes can see. So if we're looking at anything less than 50 mil, I would consider this a wide angle. So 24 millimeters is an example of this, and this is really going to be more than a human's vision of view, which is a good way to look at it. And then if we go into telephoto, this is going to be zoomed in more. So I say anything from 70 onwards is going to be a telephoto. I usually like to sit around 200 to 300 if I really want to blur the background out, for example. And basically this means that at 200 mil you're going to be zoomed in a lot. It's zoomed in about 4 times more than a human's field of view. So here is well, say it's a standard lens. I'm actually using my standard lens on my camera at the moment. This is an 18 to 200, so this is an all-rounder. It'll go pretty much from wide angle up to telephoto. I'll use this one maybe sometimes on holiday if I'm not actually there for taking pictures. This will give me a good range, and although the quality is not going to be the same, because usually you find in cheaper lenses there will be a bit more distortion in the picture. And it also means you won't be able to get as brighter pictures as possible if you're shooting in dark situations. So this is like a nice little backup lens. It's nice and light, it's small, so it's easy for you to carry, but on the same token it's not going to get you the quality you need. So it's got DX on here. This is common for the Nikon lenses. If they well, this basically means with the Nikon lenses that they are there for crop sensors. So if I put this on my full frame camera, it won't give you the whole image sensor. You'll basically crop the picture in, and the picture will be smaller in the end. Now if we look at a wide angle lens, this is a 12mm to 24. This is going to be really good for things like landscapes, because I say these will really distort the picture, but actually in a landscape that can be really nice. If you see the clouds when they're all zooming into the picture, and it really gives great depth and perspective. This is what wide angles are really good for. Another good thing about wide angles is that if you can't back off any further and you can't get everything in the picture, if you put a wide angle lens, it'll give you a bit more room to play with. And again, this isn't ideal because usually you get a bit more distortion with wide angles. So if there's anything in there that you don't want to be distorted, like someone's face near the edge of the picture, you can actually get some really weird sort of cone-shaped heads, which is not a good look. So you need to be really careful when using a wide angle, but they certainly do have their uses. Now if you look at things like a fisheye lens, this is also going to be technically a really wide angle picture, and that will really show the distortion. Now with a wide angled lens, you'll also find that you have a much wider depth of field. So if you shoot wide at about 24 millimeters, most of the image should be in focus, unless you are shooting at a very wide aperture and close to your subject. Okay, so the next thing we're going to look at is the telephoto lens. This is one here. This is a 70 to 200, so this is going to be a zoom lens again. I'll take the lens hood off. Fits better in the frame there. There we go. So again, this is actually a Sigma. These are it's done me really well, this lens actually, and the reason this one is so large is because it goes down to f2.8. So different lenses will actually stop you getting different f-stops. So you'll find the bigger the lens, the bigger the aperture you can get inside, and for that reason they'll let more light in. So if again you're using this in a darker situation, if you're shooting a football game at night time, you're going to want the f2.8 stop that this provides. If you go up to a different zoom lens like this one here, for example, this is a 70 to 300. This can only actually shoot about 5.6 with the f-stops. So I wouldn't want to use this at a football game at night time because it just simply wouldn't let enough light in the camera. So something to think about when you're choosing your lens is what you need it for. If you're going to be shooting in darker situations, you're going to want one with a wider aperture setting on it. Now the reason you'd use telephoto lenses is obviously if you're far away from something you can zoom in and you can get in nice and close with them. But they're also really good at compressing the picture together. They're actually sometimes called compression lenses or telephoto lens. And the reason they're called this is that if you've got a lot of things in a picture that are far apart, you can actually make them look a lot closer together if you zoom in with a telephoto lens. It makes them all look closer together. So I've used this before if I've been out shooting a high street and you want it to look really busy. You can literally just zoom in as far as you can, and then all the people look really squashed together and crowded in. And then if you want them to look further apart, if you switch to a wide angle lens, everybody looks like they're spread out further. So this is a trick you can use, and it can actually really change the meaning of a situation. Another really good reason for using a telephoto lens is they are great for blurring out the background. If you're shooting at a low aperture and you zoom in on like 300mm, you can actually get the end of someone's nose sharp where their eyes are out of focus. So it can give you a lot of room to play with the depth of field, and it can really have a lot of impact in your final picture. Okay, so this is a macro prime lens. It's 105mm. So 105mm is the zoom it's going to have, and being a macro means you can get in nice and close to pictures. What it actually means is that the picture you can take through the lens will be the same size on your image sensor. So it gives you a lot more scope to get in close to an object. Now, let's say this one here is a prime, which means it can't zoom in and out. And the plus side of this is that the image quality is usually a lot better. You're not going to get any distortion because the lens elements inside aren't going to be moving. If we look at a zoom lens like this, for example, when we zoom in and out, it's going to be moving the lens elements backwards and forwards inside the camera, so you will get a bit more distortion. I'm also going to touch upon why we'd use a lens hood. If you're shooting out in the sun, the sun's going to give you a lot of glare and it can make your final picture look really washed out. If you put the lens hood on, it should actually stop this from happening. At very least, it will stop it from happening as much. Now, a lot of people lose their lens hoods. It's not great, but you can get around it by covering over the lens with your hand. It just doesn't look very professional. It's a lot more awkward to do, so it's worth keeping hold of your lens hoods. Now, if you're a bit tight on money, it may be worth getting a lens that has a bit more distortion in it, and then going and getting some software afterwards that can correct that. So, when we're looking at buying a lens, we're going to want to look at what we need it for. For example, if we're taking a picture of objects far away, you're going to want a telephoto lens. If you're doing landscapes, the chances are you're probably going to want a wide angle, although you can also take wide angle. You can also take landscapes on a telephoto lens as well. For things like portraits, you might want to be looking at a standard lens with a wide aperture on it, so you can get f1, 2.8, f2, and this will give you a nice blurred background whilst the image in front is sharp, and it also means you can make the most of the natural light. And again, the light is something you're going to be looking at when you want to buy a lens. If you're going to be shooting football at night time, again you're going to want like a long lens with a wide aperture setting on it. This can be really expensive, which is why you always see people down the far side of the pitch with these massive lenses. 300, 400mm lenses, quite incredible, but you're looking around £3,000 to £4,000 for a cheaper one of them. So look at what you need your lens for, and what you're going to use it for, and what the lighting is going to be like, and you should be able to find a nice lens for you. So guys, I hope this has really cleared up what different lenses are, what they do and how you can use them to improve your pictures. As always, if you have any questions or anything you'd like to know, please leave it in the community Facebook group, and I'll be happy to get back to anyone. And I hope to see you in the next video.